The chapel was silent except for the hushed murmurs of grief. I stood at the front, my black dress clinging to me like a vice, its constriction only mirroring the tightness in my chest. My eyes remained fixed on the oak casket resting before me. Inside lay my husband, Nathan, gone just 3 days, though the emptiness stretched endlessly. At 34, I never imagined I'd be widowed, much less lose the man who had built a legacy with me, brick by brick. Nathan wasn't just my husband. He was the architect of dreams, the driving force behind Harper Innovations. For a decade, we'd been an unstoppable team, and now it was all crumbling. Emery. The sharp voice broke through my haze. I turned to see my cousin Serena, walking toward me with her usual air of self-importance. She was impeccably dressed, as always, in a designer suit that hugged her figure perfectly. A sleek leather folder rested under her arm, and the glint in her eyes was anything but sympathetic. "Not now, Serena," I said quietly, my voice raw. "This isn't the time." She smirked faintly, her perfectly lined lips curving in that infuriating way of hers. "On the contrary, it's exactly the time," she replied, pulling the folder from under her arm. "There's something you need to see. Something about Nathan's will." I felt the blood drain from my face. His will? I hadn't even thought about it, hadn't had the strength to consider anything beyond the fact that Nathan was gone. But Serena, cunning, ambitious Serena, was clearly already 10 steps ahead. "What are you talking about?" I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. She opened the folder and pulled out a stack of papers, holding them up like a trophy. "Nathan left everything to me," she said, her words cutting through me. "The company, the assets, everything. Signed and finalized 2 weeks ago." For a moment, I couldn't move, couldn't breathe. Harper Innovations wasn't just Nathan's work, it was our work. We had started it together in our tiny apartment, pouring in late nights and emptying every savings account we had. And now Serena, my cousin, who had always been more interested in spa days than spreadsheets, was claiming it all. "This has to be a mistake," I said, my hands trembling as I took the papers from her. "But it's not," Serena said, her voice laced with fox sympathy. "Nathan knew what he was doing. He wanted someone capable to carry his vision forward, someone who understands what it takes to lead. He made the right decision." Her words stung more than I cared to admit. Serena had always found subtle ways to belittle me, to position herself as superior. But this was a betrayal on another level entirely. "The board will never agree to this," I said, struggling to keep my voice steady. "They know me. They know how much I've invested." "The board has already been informed," she cut me off with a satisfied smile. "I've arranged a meeting with them tomorrow morning to finalize the transition. Don't worry, Emery. You can focus on grieving. I'll take it from here." She turned and walked away, her heels clicking sharply against the stone floor. I stood frozen, the weight of betrayal settling heavily in my chest. My eyes followed her as she gracefully mingled with the mourners, accepting condolences as if she weren't wielding a dagger in my back. I glanced back at the documents in my hands, my vision blurring as I forced myself to examine them closely. Something didn't add up. The signature, it looked like Nathan's, but there was something slightly off about it. And the date, 2 weeks ago. Nathan had been in Hong Kong then, overseeing the launch of our latest product line. The memory hit me suddenly. Serena had been unusually attentive during that time, asking questions about Nathan's itinerary, offering to help with his paperwork. At the time, I'd brushed it off as uncharacteristic kindness, but now I saw it for what it was. A surge of determination overtook me, cutting through my grief like a blade. I pulled out my phone and quickly typed a message to Dylan, Nathan's best friend and the company's legal counsel. "Need to talk. Urgent. After the service." His reply was immediate. "Come to my office at 5 p.m. I slipped the documents into my bag and straightened my shoulders. If Serena thought she could take everything Nathan and I had built together, she was about to find out how wrong she was. The rest of the service passed in a blur. I accepted condolences mechanically, my mind focused on the hours ahead. As the chapel emptied, I caught Serena's smug smile from across the room. She thought she won. She had no idea what was coming. At exactly 5 p.m., I stepped into Dylan's office. He stood as I entered, his tie loosened, his usually neat hair disheveled, a telltale sign of his stress. "Emery," he said, pulling me into a quick hug. I'm so sorry about Nathan. I can't believe he's gone. Neither can I said, my voice cracking. But Dylan, there's something wrong. Serena showed up at the funeral with these. I pulled the documents from my bag and handed them to him. Dylan's brow furrowed as he read through the pages. This doesn't make sense, he muttered. Nathan never mentioned changing his will. And these signatures. His eyes narrowed as he studied them. She said the board already knows. I added, my voice trembling, that she's meeting with them tomorrow to take control of the company. Dylan looked up sharply. That's impossible. The board meeting isn't until next week, and it was called to discuss long-term succession planning. There's no way. He trailed off, scanning the documents again. I think she forged them, I said firmly. Nathan was in Hong Kong when these were supposedly signed. And the signature, it's close, but it's not right. He nodded slowly. If that's true, this is serious fraud. But we'll need proof. Then let's find it, I said, my resolve hardening. Serena's reckless when she thinks she's ahead. She must have left a trail. Dylan turned to his computer. First, we secure the company's assets. I'll call an emergency board meeting for tomorrow morning. As he typed, I thought about Serena, about every petty rivalry, every time she had tried to undermine me. But this time was different. This time she had crossed the line. The next morning dawned gray and cold. I arrived at Harper Innovations early, walking into the familiar halls with renewed purpose. When the elevator doors opened to the executive floor, there she was, Serena, already in Nathan's office, lounging in his chair like she owned the place. Yes, we'll be restructuring, she said into the phone, her tone brisk. The current leadership is outdated. I stepped forward. Serena. She looked up, her smile sharpening. Emery, shouldn't you be home? Resting. This is still my company, I said, my voice steady. And that's still Nathan's office. She laughed coldly. Oh, Emery, I know this is hard for you to accept, but things have changed. The papers are fake, I interrupted, holding up the documents. We have the security footage, Serena. We know you forged them. Her face paled. You can't prove anything. Actually, Dylan's voice came from the doorway. We can. Two police officers stepped inside, followed by a man in a suit. Serena Whitmore, the man said. We need to ask you some questions. As they led her away, she glared at me. This isn't over, Emery. She was right, it wasn't. Because what we uncovered in those documents wasn't just fraud, it was something much darker. And I wasn't going to stop until I uncovered the truth. The federal investigation is ramping up, Daniel said, his tone grim. They're digging through everything. Her emails, phone records, financial history. Leah, there's something else. We found evidence she's been embezzling from the company for years, maybe even before Jacob passed. I glanced at a photo of Ethan on the desk, his broad, easy smile staring back at me. He trusted her, treated her like family, and she had betrayed him in ways we were only beginning to uncover. I want it all, I said, my voice colder than I thought it could be. Every receipt, every transfer, every secret. I'm going to make her pay for what she's done to Ethan. Daniel gave me a slow, resolute nod. We're on it. The forensic team is combing through the books. But Kara, you need to be careful. Lee's not the type to go quietly. She's dangerous when she's cornered. Almost on cue, my phone buzzed. A message from an unknown number. You should have stayed out of it, sister. Hope you're ready for what's coming next. I showed the text to Daniel, who immediately called Agent Ward. But I wasn't shaken. Lee had already taken so much, my husband, my trust, my peace of mind. She thought a few veiled threats would stop me. She had no idea who she was dealing with. Let her come, I said, turning to my computer. I'm not backing down. The following days blurred together. Endless meetings, interviews, and bombshell revelations. Every file we uncovered painted a darker picture of Leah's schemes. Not only had she forged Ethan's will, but she'd systematically siphoned millions from the company into offshore accounts. The most damning discovery, however, came after Leah's arrest. Agent Ward called me into his office, his expression heavier than usual. Mrs. Morgan, he began, sliding a folder across his desk. We found something in Leah's correspondence. Messages exchanged with someone named Victor Graves. Does that name ring a bell? It felt like the air had been sucked out of the room. Of course, I knew the name. Victor Graves was Ethan's biggest rival, A man who tried to take our company down more times than I could count. Yes, I said slowly. Why? Ward opened the folder, revealing pages of printed emails. It seems your sister has been selling company secrets to Graves for years. And there's more. The plan to remove Ethan, Graves was involved. They intended to merge the companies once Lee had full control. I scanned the emails, my hands trembling with rage. Their conversations were casual, almost flippant, as they detailed how to deal with Ethan and divide the spoils of their partnership. We're bringing Graves in for questioning, Ward continued. But Mrs. Morgan, these people are dangerous. We'd strongly recommend putting you under protective surveillance until... No, I interrupted, my voice firm. I'm not hiding. I want to be there when you arrest him. I want him to see me and know his plans are falling apart. Ward hesitated but finally nodded. All right, but we proceed by the book. No risks. I left his office with a renewed sense of purpose. Leah and Graves had seen themselves as untouchable, pulling strings and stacking the deck in their favor, but they hadn't accounted for me. Graves Enterprises towered over the city, a glass and steel fortress built as a monument to Victor's ego. The FBI team was already in place, waiting for the signal. The plan was simple. I'd meet with Victor under the pretense of discussing a merger, wearing a wire to bait a confession. Walking through the lobby, my heels clicked against the marble floors. Memories of Ethan's determination filled my mind, how he'd fought tooth and nail to protect what we built. Victor had taken advantage of Ethan's principles, and it had cost my husband his life. Victor's assistant escorted me to his top-floor office. He greeted me with his trademark smirk, oozing false charm. Kara, he said, extending his hand. It's been too long. I was sorry to hear about Ethan. Such a terrible loss. I ignored his hand and sat across from him, placing my bag on his desk. Let's skip the formalities, Victor. We both know why I'm here. His smile faltered but didn't disappear. All right, you mentioned a merger. I have to admit, I'm surprised. Ethan never even entertained the idea. Yes, he didn't, I said evenly, meeting his gaze. Until Leah convinced you to change his mind. Permanently. His smirk vanished. I don't know what you're implying. From my bag, I pulled out a tablet and played one of the emails the FBI had uncovered. Victor's voice filled the room. Once L handles our issue, the merger can move forward. Payment will be wired as agreed. His face turned pale. Where did you get that? You should have invested in better cybersecurity, I said coldly. Leah wasn't nearly as careful as you thought. Victor shot to his feet, reaching for his desk phone. I think we're done here, he said sharply. Oh, I couldn't agree more, I replied. In fact, I think your entire operation is done. At that moment, the door burst open, and Agent Ward and his team flooded the room. Victor shouted obscenities as they read him his rights and cuffed his hands. You have no idea what you've started. He spat as they dragged him past me. I stepped closer, lowering my voice. No, Victor, you had no idea who you were dealing with when you helped murder my husband. But you're about to find out. The months that followed were a whirlwind of court cases and media coverage. Leah and Victor turned on each other, both desperate to cut a deal. But the evidence spoke for itself. The forged will, the money trails, the emails, they left no room for doubt. I attended every trial, watching as Leah's designer suits were replaced by orange jumpsuits, her polished image shattered. Victor's smug confidence crumbled day by day, his empire reduced to ashes. The verdicts were swift and brutal. Guilty on all counts. Conspiracy, embezzlement, fraud, and murder. They were sentenced to life behind bars. On the final day of Leah's trial, she turned to me as they led her away. Was it worth it? She sneered. Destroying your own family? I met her gaze without flinching. You stopped being my family the moment you betrayed Ethan. Rebuilding wasn't easy. Merging Graves Enterprises with Morgan Innovations brought its own challenges, but I poured everything I had into restoring what Ethan had built. 1 year after his death, I stood in our office, now my office, staring at his picture. We did it, I whispered. I hope you're proud. A knock at the door broke my thoughts. Daniel entered with a stack of documents and something else. An envelope from Ethan's files, dated weeks before his death. Inside was a letter in his handwriting. Kara, if you're reading this, something's gone wrong. I've been noticing strange things. Documents moved, questions Leah shouldn't be asking. I trust you to handle whatever comes. You're stronger than you know. Whatever they take from you, don't let them take your fire. I love you. Always, Ethan. Tears blurred my vision. Even in his final days, he believed in me. Daniel smiled softly. He was right, you know. I carefully placed the letter in my desk. I'm just getting started. As the sun set over the city, I looked out the window. Lee and Victor thought they could crush me. They were wrong. I had nothing left to lose and everything to prove.